All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts.
Right here, if you have a beard, random men are going to always walk up to you and try to lick your beard.
Ew, that's so disgusting. Oh.
You're one of Mitten's kittens.
Hold on, fuck. So I'm like, nope.
Oh, well, you lost all your fleets.
Oh, fuck. Not what we intended. Oh, God. What do we do?
The Meta Show.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Meta Show. We do have a plethora of guests for you today. It's a little bit different. You aren't used to seeing this many people on one screen. All of our beautiful, beautiful faces, and especially Elise Randolph's. I mean, that hair really goes with Elise's beard in real life. I'm surprised he doesn't always have it.
So perfect.
But like I say, Laz here. Nystrik is joining us again. Thanks to Kira for filling in for her last week. We have the Mittani guest starring on his old show. We kind of gave him the boot. Yeah, gave him the boot a few months ago now. Yeah, it was 2 months ago.
Yeah.
2 months ago we gave him the boot, and then we do have Elise Randolph and Thoric Frosthammer. Now, most of you guys know who the Mittani is, but I'm going to go ahead and have him give you guys an intro to who he is in game, what he does, and then we're going to just kind of give you a brief overview of who everyone is at the show today.
I'm introducing myself? Are we
Yeah,
seriously?
yes, you're
Okay.
seriously. We've been streaming H1Z1 all day. We may have a bunch of H1Z1 players that need.
Who is this
There's
guy?
like 4
Okay.
people.
Who dat? Who dat?
Yeah.
Sort of New Orleans shout out. So I'm the Mittani. I run a little alliance in EVE Online called Goonstorm Federation and a little coalition called the Imperium. And I like to wear red shirts and I have bad facial hair.
All right, sweet. Elise?
I am Elise Randolph from Internet Spaceships, Pandemic Legion, and I don't know, kind of just universal, like to talk about EVE Online things, just everything about it, PvP, what's going on with the game, with Alliance tournament stuff, helping new players, basically all of it. And I occasionally stream with Laz, and to hilarious ends.
We always die in super expensive ships while killing Tech 1 frigates.
For those of you confused, Elise is using a mic, a voice changer, because he doesn't like people to know that he's a chick, because he's a chick on the stream.
He's actually Taylor
exactly.
Swift.
So-
Like that's actually my picture.
Yeah.
Turn up the Mittens
Not like
volume.
my
All right.
avatar.
Yeah, I'm gonna raise the volume on my mic and hopefully that'll
Well, I
be
also
appropriate.
I turned up the audio on Skype itself, so that should be better.
Okay.
So you guys let us know if the audio on Skype is still too low, and I'll bump that up a little more. And then our last guest, Thoric Frosthammer, if just give a little bit of an intro for yourself as well.
I'm the CEO of Lawn. I am a member of CSMX. I've apparently picked the blue shirt niche this time, and I have superb facial hair.
Yes.
Yeah?
It's not as good as the beard, but or I mean it's.
Well, it's better than mine. I mean, one of our guys is pointing out that it's better than mine.
I'm still working on my facial hair. It's not.
It'll get there.
Good.
Keep working on it.
Yeah, I'm still working on it.
But guys, anyone who don't know what the CSM is, Thoric is a member of. CSM is the Council of Stellar Management. It is the player organization that I guess talks to CCP. Is the bridge between the players and CCP when it comes to developing the game. And Thoric is a member of the current CSM for any H1Z1 players that are currently in and watching
It's like
the
a
stream.
space politician, basically, but then again,
Yes.
so am I. But a more official space politician, I should say.
He actually has the badge and everything.
Yes, he's got the badge.
But lately in EVE, there's not been too much going on in 0-0. There's been some little skirmishes here and there. One of the big things is NC Dot, which is Northern Coalition Alliance in EVE Online, and is having shenanigans or fun in Providence, which, Elise, you can probably explain better about what's going on in Providence more than any of us.
Yeah, so I mean, NC Dot's kind of broke ties with N3 after just the Fountain invasion and Delve defense, and so they just moved over not too far because moving in PB is really annoying. So they moved over to the area that had the highest or the most dense population with really just laid back PvP, and they went into against Provi Block, and the Provi Block guys are they're not rolling over as easily as people expected. So they show up with like 300 people, 400 people sometimes in fleets, pretty well designed doctrines, and I don't know, it's been pretty fun. Like a very low key very, very enjoyable. Just kind of a way to build your swagger back after like a really annoying little war.
Oh,
The annoying little war. That's
they
one
got
word for
gun-punched
it.
pretty hard a couple days ago. They lost a pretty big fleet, didn't they?
TFI
I mean,
fleet.
that's the thing. Like Pravi isn't rolling over. They're
no.
showing up. They've got bombers. They've got Tech 3 sniping cruisers or battle cruisers rather.
Do they still have their
They have,
nightmare fleet?
No, I don't think they have that anymore.
Oh.
It's a dream that everyone tries to put because the ship looks so cool on paper, but it's actually awful.
No. Wow.
But yeah, so I mean that's going on in the south. We're not too far away. We're in Curse. We kind of have a little wormhole highway set up, so we pop over to the drone regions with Nully and XIX fighting Solar and Tri. So we kind of pop over there every once in a while. We sort of pop over to Fountain every once in a while when we have the chance. And Darkness and Kadeshi are sort of doing something in Southern Catch and over in Quirius, so we're kind of having fun over there. I know the Reavers are kind of defending Quirius from Darkeshi pretty effectively.
Are we
show
defending
up.
it? Does that mean that we actually like kind of took it when we weren't looking? I know that they
Did we accidentally Quirius, you mean?
Yeah, you guys are doing Quirius.
Just
we
the
have a
same
habit of
station over and over
accidentally,
again.
like all of those territories. But it's interesting to see how that works because we have been watching essentially these two alliances fighting against just one of our special interest groups in our coalition. I mean, the Reavers are a great organization that we deny the existence of, but it's been funny. I mean, by all rights, the Reavers are supposed to do like guerrilla work, like behind the lines when nobody is fighting against them. They're not supposed to be winning fleet fights.
Well,
they've got-
that backfired.
They've got help from Pizza, who are doing Pizza now live in Delve.
Which
They're
is
catching
amazing, by the way.
a bunch of supers somehow. Just all these supers that kind of unsubbed in Delve, and even just renters that just happen to be in the Delve area. They're moving out, and Pizza just last week I think they caught, or the last 2 weeks I think they caught like 8 supers or something ridiculous.
Yeah, I
And
know.
sometimes we showed up to help with the firepower, and sometimes like by the time we got there they were dead.
I know they caught one, I think a Titan the other day, where we had a wormhole and we were able to send some tackle through the wormhole, and then PL showed up to finish it off.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's been actually a lot of supers dying ever since Phoebe, which like as a small scale like super capital owner, you're kind of screwed moving your supers now in Phoebe if you don't have a massive fleet to move with or a massive fleet to call for backup.
Yeah, it's awful trying to move a super more than 2 or 3 regions away.
Yeah, I really, at some point we should probably have a lengthy discussion about, and we can potentially do that later on in the show, about the sort of impact of Phoebe, because as we're staring down Fozzie looking at the predictions of what people, there's a certain class of people who predicted one thing with Phoebe and another group that predicted another thing, and I think it's obvious now who was right, who was wrong, and what the effect that's had on the game. And I don't think it's healthy, which is a total tangent, but you are seeing these end game players who have their super carriers, who have their Titans. If they're not actively with a massive coalition, they just get hunted down and slaughtered.
That also
when they try to
happens
log
if
back in.
you are with a massive coalition, as you saw in Fountain a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Super.
Assuming that if people just assume that you can guard a move fleet with like 70 harpies, oops.
And you're not?
So apparently you can't. Apparently that's not a good idea
Well,
to guard your super capitals with just a small group of frigates and assume that everything will work out all right.
Well, what happened there was
Yeah, I learned.
we had actually like a 150-man fleet with it, but from what I heard, it basically, if you could think of a ship in Eve, like literally rattle off 10 names of ships in Eve, there was one of each of every single ship in Eve in that fleet.
It was
I'm glad you're
kitchen
bringing
sink.
the kitchen sink
Kitchen
back.
sink.
Yes.
It was kitchen sink moving
It
up.
started as a
Fleets
harpy
are my
fleet,
favorite.
and then it ended up just being this. It's like a Katamari, right? From that, I love that. I love that old game. And people just rolled a ball, and there's all these ships stuck to it. Like, oh hey, this is our fleet. It's gonna guard. Yeah, we totally deserve to lose those ships because we are dumb and bad at Eve.
It was basically Eve 2004 all over again, where you had every single battleship in a sniping fleet. It happens. But the
stuff.
hubris is strong, and we haven't had a whelp like that in a while. We were kind of due.
Definitely.
Well, speaking of whelps, I think I'm going to go ahead and intervene here and have a little segue. We're going to do something a little different on this show from what we've been doing in the past, and periodically Nystrik is going to be interrupting us and just giving things away.
My mind, because that's exactly what I was about to bring up. So get out of my head, because it's creepy and it's weird in there. Yeah. So yeah, if you guys want to win stuff, be active in chat. We've got a giveaway from everyone today. So we'll do those periodically, probably every 5-10 minutes. And then at the end, we're going to be giving away another Naboo X to our subscribers.
Which I actually have the Naboo X picture loaded. It is not loading. Hold on.
We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there.
But yeah, basically, instead of having to do the old system where people give a keyword or something, if you're active in chat and just participating, you will periodically get ships rained down on you. We've got a bunch of ships to give away today. We have a Razor Naboo X, and there's lots of other crazy shit going on. But that is not going to detract from the discussion. No. You'll just get swag rained on you.
Yeah, so basically periodically, if there's a lull in the talking, we'll just do a roll real quick, and which means you'll constantly be talking in chat, and hopefully something productive, but if it's not productive, that's okay too.
All right, so we have explained the giveaways.
Yes.
We will now get back to the yammering.
Yes. Yammering. But in the patch coming up soon, the Jackdaw's coming out. Elise, have you looked at the Jackdaw or played with it, or has anyone played with the Jackdaw yet on the test server?
I've been looking at it since they keep changing sort of the bonuses. They're trying to find a bonus that doesn't make the ship gimped, while doesn't make it completely overpowered, because they have this problem with especially missile platforms on small ships that can fit oversized afterburners. If you have an oversized afterburner on a Sfeeple or Confessor, your shots are going to start missing if you just kite around a lot. But in a Jackdaw, like, you're spamming missiles, so you don't care about tracking. You want to keep your SIG as low as possible. So they sort of nerfed a little bit how the ship handles with a oversized afterburner, which I think is good. I absolutely hate the oversized afterburner mechanic. And they changed the bonuses. I don't remember what the first one was. The second one was basically a built-in shield extender, and it was awful. And the one that they have now is a reload timer bonus. So reload,
they can swap out missiles as if they were like lasers to be able to
change. It's 2.5 seconds or something at level 5.
And that's going to be really interesting. I mean, one of the balance issues that we have in this game, besides Ishtar's, which has been the same balance issue forever, and I'm sure that this new sentry drone fix is totally going to change everything. Beyond that, one of the things that's been curious is that interceptors don't really have anything that can catch them very easily, and we're moving towards a system in Fozzie-Sov, which will be a segue later, where being able to catch people zooming around in interceptors to defend your indexes will be important. So we've been examining in our fitting team the Jackdaw very closely to see whether this is something that can actually be used as a counter to interceptors that are interdiction nullified, just kind of running amok and being uncashable. At the moment, I don't think it is, but that's kind of a gaping hole in the rock, paper, scissors of Eve.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing that the assault or the Tier 3 destroyers, do very well is they kill frigates just in general. They may have a hard time killing interceptors that just harass with Entosis links and things like that. But overall, it's starting to shift the meta slowly but surely away from frigates online.
Which makes me sad because I like frigates, but that's fine.
I absolutely hate frigates so much. Just because they're so strong for what they do, and you absolutely have to fit a scrambler. So the only way to fight people is to kite, and that's just really boring to me. So I'm just glad that the Confessor and Sfeeple are just destroying frigates left, right, and center.
It makes me mad.
Well, and thank you to Fallen Sun Gaming, Uncle Donkey, and I think Bethal for the subs. Appreciate you guys, and the resubs, like Kondo, I see. But the Jackdaw itself is going to, they gave it 6 mids. That's more than a Cerberus.
Interesting.
It's more than a Tech 2 heavy assault cruiser. I mean, it's huge.
I really like destroyer hulls having a purpose besides, interdictors being a thing, right? I mean, it's really cool. I think destroyers have always been like a favorite of the player base, and we saw that reflected in the activity levels in the game during, I believe it was the Retribution expansion, where we first got our new dose of destroyers. Unfortunately, some of those destroyers, like the Corax, are still shit, even though it's got a great, the Corax has just, I've always been ranting about the Corax. I love the module. I mean, I love the model, the hull, everything, and but it is nice to see this particular hull class in general get emphasized, because we know it's popular with the player base. We've seen it when they've added new destroyers, and hopefully it doesn't suck.
The cool thing about it is you can swap on the fly, like the subsystems essentially. So it adds a new sort of aspect to the game that when you fly, the ships have a very high skill cap. So depending on how you can micromanage your little subs, your ship does really good. Which is an interesting aspect to EVE Online. Like, that's not something you think of. You think of Orbit F1, things like this, or just sort of very crude manual piloting things.
Well, and if you have to always choose the right time to do it, because there's a 10-second cooldown period from swapping stances. I guess kind of like a warrior in World of Warcraft, if anyone's ever played that game, which everyone's cringing right now.
Stance kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a stance because like
sub
if you're
management, interesting, micromanaging your subs. Curious.
Right. Because tank mode gets like higher resistances, lower sig, or sharpshooter gets longer range or better tracking. So if you're not taking too much damage, you can sit in sharpshooter and get better benefits. Or once you need to go in and brawl, you can swap to defense and just kind of go like that. Which Kane Felmont, thank you so much for the subscription. But the Jackdaw, like I've been playing around with them, and the dream for me right now is a triple medium medium sailor shield booster and rocket Jackdaw, which basically goes in and just brawls it out with everything until it runs out of charges and then dies in a fire. But I mean, there's just so many different options with these Tech 3 destroyers, which is what really makes them really cool for the EFT and real EVE ship fitting nerds.
Well, speaking of ship fitting, why don't we give away a ship?
I just rolled one. Apple Pear 1337. Congratulations, you've won yourself a succubus. You guys know the drill. Message the channel with your in-game name, what you won, and we'll get it to you ASAP.
Excellent. Congratulations.
Yep. And one of the biggest points of contention right now when it comes to balancing are sentry drones and Ishtars. Yeah. So there is a post by Fozzie saying that no matter what they do, they're going to piss off 90% of the players in these forum threads, which everyone took that as very passive aggressive and called them out on. Yeah,
I can't imagine why.
Yes, and so it was. I don't have a link to it. I wish I should have dug up the link for it. But it's basically, instead of nerfing the ship that's causing the most issues with it, which is like the Ishtar, they're just doing a blanket nerf on sentries in general. So you're going to be hurting the Rattlesnake, the Dominix, the Vexor, the Vexor Navy issue, the Gila. I mean, anything, oh, not Gila because Gila doesn't use them, but anything that uses sentry drones just basically is getting a huge nerf because of the Ishtar.
Well, that's what always happens. Like you see something that's broken, and it's like the one thing that stands apart as the broken thing, and you're just like, oh, well, obviously, the underlying things in this case, sentries are the issue, but no, it's the ship. The ship just needs to get nerfed a little bit.
The thing I've always thought about sentries versus other drones is that the part of the reason that they have such trouble balancing them against anything else is because every other kind of drone has 3 sizes. And so they're trying to balance battleship weapons with, bandwidth and tracking and some other things, and you end up hurting the battleship-sized ships in order to favor the cruisers. So,
I mean, the entire thing is ridiculous. And the concerning thing about whenever you see a developer make passive-aggressive comments in public is you never want to see a dev go into like a bunker mentality, a fortress mentality, where they just sort of, stick their fingers in their ears and go like, la, 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 everything is fine. We saw some strangeness with the proposed bomber fix back in the day before they banned IS Boxer. There was going to be a fix to bombers where they would begin to decloak one another once more, and that was proposed and it would have been a great fix. And then they backed off doing that and ended up functionally adding essentially like a buff to the things.
Yeah.
They banned IS Boxer to sort of fix it. So I mean, the Ishtar thing is concerning. I mean, one of the things that was interesting about EVE before the rise of the Ishtar was the variety in doctrines. But in this day and age, you're using Tengus, you're using a few other T3s, you're using Ishtars, and this meta has been the same for a very long time. Previously speaking, every campaign that we would run, there would be a shift in doctrines, right?
Absolutely.
And it's not just the Imperium. I mean, this is just across all the frickin' coalitions.
Well, in the year that year and a half, 2 years that I actively played EVE, it was like Alpha Fleet, AHAX, Drakes, back to AHAX. I don't even remember what came after that, but something was always different. I was always training for something new, and now it's like this has been the meta, and this is going to continue to be the meta, and it's not that exciting.
Yeah.
Well, the thing with Ishtars is I personally don't think they're completely overpowered. I just think they do a lot of things really, really well. So
especially in
exactly.
Phoebe, when you can't deploy like with a suitcase carrier, so you can't bring 10 different ships. So you have to choose, okay, I'm just going to choose one ship that does everything kind of well.
Mm-hmm. They're very good
has
generalists.
some flaws, but
it's kind of like Drake's back in the day in a lot of ways.
Just always Drake fleet.
Well, yeah, I mean, like normally instead of having a rock paper scissors style of balance, you now have sort of the bomb in terms of style, where, like Elise says, the Ishtar is always a safe choice. You know, it might be countered by some things, but you're usually safe putting that foot forward doctrine-wise. And reshipping and moving is such a pain in the ass in Phoebe that, yeah, I don't know. It's irksome to see this happening.
But we do Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. We do see sort of new people or people trying new things a little bit. I know Darkness and Kadeshi have sort of adopted PL's TFI fleet.
That's usually working out very well against them because they
just lost an entire one.
I mean, there's some growing pains. They're still trying to get it to work just right.
The Reavers were never supposed to be able to win straight fights. They were never designed to be a line fighting organization. We've created a monster that doesn't.
Brave Newbies
that's a doctrine that's been tried about 20 times by 20 different people, and they always think, in theory, this sounds terrific, and then they get it out there and realize, God, that was a really expensive whelp we just shot. Maybe we'll stop using that.
Well, we had really good luck with it fighting Brave Newbies, and fighting some other people.
PL fighting Brave Newbies. So
yeah,
but
there's other parts of that story.
That is true. But we were fighting other dudes with them, and they worked just fine. Another interesting thing, Brave Newbies have just tried to adopt the Imperium, I guess is what you're called now, Dominic's fleet.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Unfortunately, they don't have like the.
You killed my face,
Laz.
I'm fixing it.
Laz, you killed my face.
Your green screen started messing up, so I tried to edit it, and then it completely erased the region.
Oh, okay.
Disaster.
She's vanishing into the ether. This is a great opportunity for us to, while she's invisible, to give away something.
Yeah. So Sherlock B. Holmes, congratulations, you've won yourself a comet.
Yes.
Excellent.
Congratulations, buddy. But I actually had the long talk with Ragnar about this last week, and as people know, I'm a huge supporter of the Dominics. I actually tried to push our guys to swap to the Dominics before Phoebe happened, and I was in Illuminati, our director channel, for I think 2 weeks straight saying we need Dominic's, we need Dominic's, we need Dominic's. And Dominic's are the best jack of all trades ship in the game, period. But they come with an addendum, because they only work if you have a second hammer you can drop on the Blap Dreads or whatever is coming in to kill your triage.
Yeah, so, they're the biggest armor tanked ship. They're the ship with the biggest signature of all the armor tank ships. So they get blapped really easily. They get bombed really easily. And if you're not good at countering bombers at all, like Brave Newbies are historically really bad at it, then you're gonna have a problem, because not only are your ships gonna die, but your drones are gonna die. And if your drones die, then you can't do anything. So it works with you guys because you have this huge super fleet backing you up in case anyone tries to escalate. And you're pretty good at.
Now we don't have to worry about people escalating anymore because Phoebe. Because
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's actually really fun. I could just drop supers on anything and don't have to worry about
I mean, basically we just end up divvying up the galaxy and say, like, I'm here, you're there, you're over there, and we can't mess with each other anymore. So you just end up, instead of having, a galaxy where there would be these massive fights, we now have these sort of little zones of. It reminds me of, what were they called? Spheres of influence in the colonial period in China, where basically each great empire would say, okay, well, this territory is mine, that territory is yours, and we'll stay out of each other's business and just do whatever we want here, and nothing can stop us. And
the best part is it hasn't really changed power projection. Like the big problems that people had with power projection is that they'd gripe and say, oh, during every big fight, everyone from all over the universe comes over and shows up. Oh, this won't be able to happen in Phoebe anymore. And then we have like the biggest numerical fight ever happened after Phoebe, and we're basically wherever the fight is, we're there. It just takes a little bit longer to get there.
Well, and it makes it more difficult for somebody smaller to counter somebody bigger, because if I'm already there and I'm bigger than you, you're not getting in a bat phone anytime soon.
Exactly.
Nope.
Yeah.
I don't know why we have to
traipse all the way across space. It'll take them 6 hours. They might try it.
I mean, I don't know why. I mean, this is basically sort of an established principle of game design, but if you have an organization, and I have to say this every time I get on the meta show because it just doesn't seem to sink in, but this is yet another example of how if you take somebody who is, you know, if you take a bodybuilder and you give him a 100-pound weight and you give somebody who's never lifted before a 100-pound weight, the bodybuilder is unhappy. He's like, whatever, it's 100 pounds. And somebody who's never lifted before is going to the hospital, right? So here's this situation where they keep trying to make the game harder for the organized blocks, because I don't think, at this point, I don't think they understand how blocks and coalitions work. And so by trying to raise the difficulty level, it's not like the coalitions have trouble. The PLs and the Imperiums have no real issue.
They're pretty quick to adapt to it.
Yeah, we just have to carry more weight, and it sucks. But it just keeps raising the bar higher and higher for newer organizations who are just unable to adapt to the kind of like mud slog. I mean, I saw Mad Max last night. Great movie, loved Mad Max. But if you're pulling a war barge or whatever through a quagmire of mud, you can handle it if you're coalition. Otherwise, you're just stuck and screwed.
Yeah. Well, it's like we were talking about earlier with Phoebe and these single or small group players trying to move their supers. It's just impossible at this point, because that's why you see so many Titans dying lately.
Yeah, and it's everybody's after them, and everybody can get them. I mean, you look down in Iridia, that place is what a slaughterhouse. Everybody trying to move through their dies.
Yep.
Yeah, Iridia and Derelict both have their versions of the Wrecking Crew. There's the Wrecking Crew, which is with Rocket X in just like Fasper in that area. Then you have Losaknash Lupin, which is like the Russian Wrecking Crew over in Iridia. And it's pretty great. So just anywhere in south on the map, you can't move your super ever.
Just don't do that. That's dumb.
But I do have a little bit of hope, maybe cautious optimism, that this whole Phoebe thing was to just set the stage for the new Sov system in FozzieSov, which
I can see you crossing your fingers right now.
I see a segue coming up.
Let's
dive into this.
The flyest segue.
That's what I was about to say.
Right before we jump into it, let's do our. So the next one is going to be a Cinnable, and our new sub today, Beathail. Congratulations, you've won your sub Cinnable.
New sub pays off apparently.
Yep. New sub pays off.
That's a value sub.
Completely rigged. So all you subs, I need a CMC TV rigged in chat, guys.
I didn't even give a subscriber boost this time.
Wow. Excellent.
Yeah, that's amazing.
All right, so FozzieSov. Do we want to do this?
Yeah, we're jumping into that. I was working on segueing into that. We're about 25 minutes into the show because we started a little bit late, which means we have about 20 minutes left, guys, and we're going to just kind of speed things up a little bit. So FozzieSov, the first iteration.
Start with the strike. I mean,
the strike.
So basically, we, from a Mittens perspective, Imperium perspective, we had a plan for the date for FozzieSov. FozzieSov was supposed to be hitting in June, and almost all of the great powers in EVE reshuffled the map, geographically speaking, to prepare for it, because the people who are the most organized usually will move, just like with Phoebe, to rearrange their territory. Everybody reshuffled on the map, and then settled in, and then they announced that it was just going to be delayed, and we're only going to get like some sort of station and Tosis link mechanic in the June update, which means that we basically over here, we're like, okay, well, we're going to go fuck around in H1Z1 and like have Reavers kill off in alliances, which they shouldn't be able to do. Now it's, delayed until July. And we're in this very awkward situation that we'll determine within the next couple of weeks to see whether it manifests into a real thing, where the labor unions in Iceland have banded together, and Iceland has a really weird quirk of their labor law, where if you are a member of the union and they choose to go on strike, by law, you cannot go to work. Like, even if you don't agree with the strike, if that coalition gets together and decides they're all striking. So Iceland is facing a widespread general strike starting on June 6th. So the concern in terms of the FozzieSov delays is it was already delayed until July-ish. And then if we're facing a work stoppage across all of Iceland, the question is, when are we going to get it? And that's factors that are outside of the control over of CCP.
It may frankly not happen. They've got something like 70,000 people threatening to strike, which may be enough pressure that somebody caves and they sort something out before the 6th, which is when the general strike starts. So
there's usually an 11th hour deal with any kind of a labor conflict, but it's something that we have to keep in mind when we're talking about SOV delays, is that if that strike does kick in, then CCP we have no formal mathematical knowledge of how much that's going to impact their development process, but it certainly can't help. So
quite a few of the CCP devs I know are members of it, because I know who was it, CCP Puncturus and Karker were talking about on Twitter that they were being forced to strike, and that's talking about how they didn't want to. So I mean, it definitely will affect CCP if it does go on for multiple days at a time, which means we could see pushbacks to the soft system. And so, segueing into the soft system, who wants to go first? Thoric, actually, you want to lead us off on Fozzie Sov, kind of give us your thoughts on it?
Give us an overview, because he's on the CSM.
Well, I have to be careful because I have to make sure I don't say the things that haven't been released yet.
But it's okay. No one will see this show. Yeah, don't worry.
Nobody's going to see it.
Nobody's watching. It's all good. We're all friends here.
Basically, I'll just start with sort of the general things that worry me about what's been released so far, and it's particularly sort of the intersection between the SOV system and the way that the new structures are going to work, and the fact that there's delays and sort of offsets between the times those things are going to come in. It seems to me that currently Fozzie Sov, the way it's been designed, is a little bit balanced around the current sovereignty structures, the stations and the iHubs and the TCUs, and going into the new structure system, the station sort of part of that triad goes off on its own, becomes, the first one that they've announced, obviously, is the Citadels, which is going to be more or less the station replacement. Some of those are going to have very different capture mechanics than some of the sovereignty structures, evidently, so judging from what they've said in the blogs. So it's hard to say precisely what's going on in some respects and what the world of Fozzie Sov is going to be like afterward, where you have potentially, these windows for certain sovereignty things that are going to be out there, and then you're going to have structures that have different setups, and we don't even know about most of the structures yet, which is what part of the problem is that there's just a lot of blank spots out there right at the moment. So,
is there any timeline on the structures? I mean, the thing is that the blogs for Fozzie Sov that we've seen relate. There are timelines on those, but then I think it was Euturbium released a blog about structures that are coming up, but I didn't see any timelines. I didn't really see any specifics. It seemed like a sort of like eventually, maybe someday.
Well, they said soon. Well, they did say they will expect the first structure to be in by winter.
Yeah, the only guidance they've given on that is that probably by the end of the year in winter, there will be the first set of structures, which, since they're the only ones they've announced, is the Citadels. One would assume that would be the first thing in.
Yeah. So 6 months-ish.
Oh, that's so long.
Winter is coming, one might say.
Yeah.
And then there's going to be a long overlap between that and stations, it's according to what they've said. So the question is just... The question to me is just, I think the overwhelming thing when I look at these two systems together is, and it's something that I think a lot of people have concerns about, is what makes you want to live in a sovereignty structure under this sovereignty system rather than, say, live next door in LowSec or live in NPC
or live in VNOL and just maintain all the single point income sources.
Right, and you already see people adopting that plan.
Yeah,
I mean, look at Brave. They are
look at PL.
PL.
PL was first out of the gates with that with the Phoebe.
Well, they're straight up. They're straight out. They're straight out dropping Sov. But the Brave is actually adopting what looks to me like the plan that a lot of people are thinking about, given what they've seen so far, which is YZ is their staging system. They're in Fountain Core, and they're going to hold as much as they can, and they're going to hold moons. But at the end of the day, they're going to fall back to Fortress Fountain Core.
I mean, this is sort of a tactic that Against All Authorities have been doing, or had been doing, for like half a decade.
Yeah.
Like, just stay in NPC stain and then take catch, and when someone takes catch, just go back to NPC stain.
When that person gets tired or leaves the game, you flood back into your old Sov, and that's
then you die and you come back, and it's fine.
Over and over again.
Well,
and that seems to be the new.
We're doing it right now.
I mean, it's not just something A does anymore. Apparently, it's the new trend.
That's the optimal sort of response to this sort of thing.
And not to sidetrack us too much, but Gus Bus in chat says, why even announce the Citadels if they aren't coming out until winter? And I think, honestly, they probably released them as kind of a smokescreen. Hey, guys, look at this shiny thing while we try and get this other stuff fixed.
I swear.
By the way, we're pushing this back, but look at this. Don't look at us pushing back this date. Look at this shiny Citadel. So they're just throwing stuff.
Like, I don't think they're that deep. I think they've just been working on something that they think looks cool, and they're like, "Hey, players, look how cool this thing is."
Mm-hmm. I mean, the structures team in particular doesn't seem to be like they're engaging in any sort of nefarious, trying to throw shinies in our face. I think it's just that they've got two different teams working on two different things that are very intertwined, And so you're going to see, but unfortunately they're unfolding at different paces. So there's going to be a lot of confusion perhaps while we sort out the differences between what SOV structures do and what regular structures do and what else is going on. So
yeah.
I mean, I'm always excited to see what they're working on, even when it's far away. I just wish things were coming a little sooner, you know?
Let's pause with all the depression, because this is making me depressed, and liven things up by giving something away.
With a giveaway?
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
I was just about to say. So, Vindictus Prime, congratulations. You've won yourself an Ashimu.
Yep, and guys, with these giveaways, make sure you're following the channel, and if you win something, you need to message your channel, which is the cogwheel below the stream itself. Just hit that cogwheel and click message and message us. And I guess with the, with Fozzie and the Citadels, they're saying that they want the Citadels to be affected by the Entosis link that's coming in Fozzie, but what are our capital ships supposed to do? We have yet to hear anything about capital ships, because once the Citadels come in, then you literally have, you don't even have use your dreads to shoot these things to reinforce them anymore. And so the only times you're going to see capitals on grade is if it's a battleship versus battleship fight and someone happens to have dreads within range. So if we don't get some sort of rebalance of the capital soon, then they're just going to be unsubbed paperweights.
I could envision some sort of defensive role for some of the capitals, because even though the first cycle is delayed, it doesn't matter once the first cycle's passed. You just keep going. So actually the longer cycle becomes something that would benefit if you're just sitting there accepting, you're just a big tank basically for the defensive. But that's the only role I can think of, and it's not a very exciting one.
Yeah, no,
when we end up in a situation where I, of all people, am saying instead of death to all supers, but like caps and supers need to be looked at again and rebalanced in some capacity, up is down, left is right. It's the end of times, basically.
Yeah, that's scary to me. All I've ever heard Mittani say is they just need to go away.
People in chat are actually noticing that like my face looks all sad and I'm all like grumpy looking and annoyed looking, and it's true. Like this is, there's no real way for me to poker face my way through this. I'm very concerned about almost all of this that we're seeing. I mean, I worry about the delay. I worry about the strike. I worry about providing a reason, and I worry about the passive-aggressive behavior, because it's just like the more that we see about this, the more that we see the mechanics of what Fozzie is headed for. There are certain changes that were made in the run-up to FanFest and shortly thereafter that made Fozzie more sensible, right? Like the changes to iHubs, that was good. The changes to mining in nullsec, that was good. But in terms of the broader big picture understanding of how nullsec and how player groups work, it seems like there is something missing in at the conceptual level. As why do we be there? Why should we be there as opposed to NPC? Because reasons? Because reasons is not enough of an answer for blocks that have power to put a flag in SOV. Because there's nothing to stop the Imperium from doing the same thing that PL has done. We enjoy having flags, but there's no reason why we can't just move all of our core assets into NPC Pureblind or NPC Venal, and then like Brave and like everybody else is doing. If we're at risk, whatever, no big deal. But
because we can just hold on to our moons. We can hold on to our moons, move to NPC space, and just chill, and not have to worry about the rest.
Moons are the big hole in the system because they're a static source of income that can be held from a distance. You can stage somewhere near them in low sec or in NPC, and you can just hold them forever. And because they are easy and they're still, for now, working on the old POS system, you can still continue to do them the traditional way for a long period of time. And
so there's one thing about moons. There are actually a few things about moons that I personally love. I like the idea
they start fights, which is nice.
Yeah, I like the idea of something in space where you can attack it anytime you want. But if you are good and if you're nearby and if you're organized, you can change the timer to have it come out whenever it suits you. If you're lazy and you're just not paying attention, then the timer comes out at a time that might be bad for you. So if you're an attacker, you can just constantly put pressure on them, constantly make fights over them, and maybe you'll get lucky if the other person just starts to burn out. That's one of the things I really like, and one of the things I'm slightly worried about with respect to Fozzie, because there's a window that you can't. There's like a window of attack, and that window of attack is when it's fully upgraded, it's 3 hours.
Right, exactly.
So I can't even attack you in my prime time anymore. So what I'm thinking
Well, as the defenders, as the person putting all this effort to hold this sov, keeping up your sovereignties and stuff like that, you still have a 3-hour window that you have to literally be glued to your, like, someone has to be glued to their desk ready to form an active fleet.
You've got to have, like, 4 fleets ready to go at all times, like, for that hour, those windows.
Well, I mean, the thing about all this, and like the broader concern, because I suppose the reason I'm making frowny faces is those broader concerns, is the more uncertainty you add into the system without clarity about the future, you know, blocks and the brain trusts behind them. I mean, even if they're not holding SOB, like an entity like PL, an entity like the Imperium, other groups in this game, uncertainty, regulatory risk that is just you can't probe it, you can't figure out anything else. It makes people more risk adverse, right? So if I know that Phoebe is coming in a month, and I know this rule, and this rule are coming into it, that's great. I can make plans, I can make moves, and people adapt, and they create content by changing. The way that things are going with structures and with the SOP system, what we're seeing in EVE is a cooling, and this is a problem that we've had on the TMC website from an editorial perspective, is we have gradually been having to lower what we call the relevance threshold of news that we report on. Previously speaking, we would report on anything that was above 25 billion ISK in terms of damage. And now we're like, hey, here's a Rorqual that was a 13 billion ISK Rorqual kill. It's not quite an ALOD, but maybe we could turn this into news. I mean, an EVE of small gang slap fights, because there's no reason for us to go to war and risk things, because we have no idea what's going to happen with moons. We have no idea what's going to happen with structures. We have no idea, should we be risking our supers because they're suddenly going to get rebalanced, they're going to be great? Should we be risking our capitals? Maybe we should throw them away. Maybe we should hold on to them. It's unclear, and that results in people being cautious, which is
right. And that's been the trend since
irksome.
TV. Initially, people were like, okay, we need to do something. People pulled back. There were fights. There were small things. And then once the dust kind of settled, everything kind of stopped.
Well, I think what's happening right now is everyone's in this sort of wait-and-see mentality.
Yeah.
Like, we'll see what happens. You could see people positioning themselves to the south side of the map, because you can't go for like a long weekend or 2 weekends or on a deployment somewhere else. So they're saying, okay, there's a really dense population of people in the south. I'm going to start positioning myself over there just to see what happens. And if something erupts, I want to be able to jump in on it. So you see these people, you see NC Dot, you see Darkness and Kadeshi, and pretty much everyone gravitating a little bit towards the south. Nully obviously went north on a contract with XX and things. But, I mean, Black Legion's in the south. Everyone's sort of moving south, just waiting to see what will happen. Because
and the waiting is fine if there's a known endpoint to that waiting, right?
Yeah,
so that's
why
the thing. Like, that's why the
everyone,
strike worries me so much. Is like, okay, well, I had plans for our guys. Like, my job is basically to provide content for our little community. And it's like, okay, guys, we're going to go to Providence as soon as Fozzie hits. We're going to do all these things. We're going to burn Amar. You know, it's going to be fun. We're going to blow up a Revenant just for the sake of doing it. We're going to go fuck around in H1Z1. We're going to do this. We're going to do that to try to, like, bide time for us to do something. And then after the first Fozzie delay, I'm like, okay, well, we can't do Pravi until Fozzie hits. That's now July, unless the strike delays that even further. So now we're going to burn Amar in June sometime. And we're going to, you know, I mean, I'm glad that our guys are enjoying going multi-platform, because it means that when, you know, Iceland is on strike, we can at least fuck around in other games. I'm depressed. Let's give something away.
Yes. Which, by the way, thank you, 10-inch, for the subscription. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. And all of you subs, make sure you do a TMCV lick in the channel for our new sub.
I just put the room in sub mode, so we're going to have to hold off on a giveaway because people need a second to retype stuff.
Yes, if you're a subscriber, go ahead and type, because we're going to be giving away one of those Nabu X's. Let's keep going.
Thoric?
Yeah, the problem with Phoebe has been that because it localizes everything, I feel like it makes the stakes lower. I mean, people are doing a lot of local Thunderdomes out in the east and out in the south and pushing, but the only ones you see fighting for real Sov are the ones who didn't already manage to settle into whatever their plan is for post Fozzie Sov for whatever reason, either because we destroyed their space or because they didn't have any, and some of those guys are pushing to make themselves a little empire before Fozzie Sov starts. But that's the only thing you see going on that's of any serious business. Everything else is sort of low stakes. Let's fight over a moon or two and blow each other up. I mean, even the BL Brave thing is basically just Thunderdome and Fountain. So.
Well, I mean, I enjoyed watching PL and Brave go at it. And I mean, there was a lot of interesting stuff there. But then once that fizzled out, everything kind of fall.
Well, I think
that's just
right
everybody basically moved into positions to get ready for FozzieSov in May, right? All of the people who have real stakes, and so now it's like penny ante, just whatever. Like here's a 10 billion ISK slap fight over nothing. Congratulations.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with people sort of have seen the death of the Dominion Soft system, and they're like, okay, this is going to end now. Thank God it's over. I really hated it, and they just don't want to deal with it anymore. So they're just exactly in a holding pattern. But I've always been of the opinion that I don't care what the new system is, even though we're like pretty doom and gloom and critical about it. I don't necessarily care what the new system is, so long as they iterate on it and make changes, which I have faith that they can do. And just as long as it's new, like I think just having a new system, just getting it out there, will be really great for.
Yeah, I think that you bring up an important distinction that I want to clarify, because I can tell that my frowny faces is bothering people in chat.
Well, before you start that, Alex, or Mittani, let's roll that sub giveaway.
Yeah, so the first one is going to be the bar guest, and one of our other new subs, Conduesi. Congratulations, you've won it.
You did it.
Excellent. Flying pancake. Good ship.
So you guys keep typing. We got 2 more things to give away, so just be active.
So I will finish my caveat. So one of the things I want to make clear about FozzieSov is that in the run-up to FanFest, I mentioned this briefly earlier, that they really have changed FozzieSov from its earlier iteration into what we have now. Like, I actually really like FozzieSov with the scaling primetime. That's something that I think is great. XTDZ had proposed it, and as usual, XTDZ knows probably more about Sov than anyone in the history of EVE Online, and he's just the best at it. So that's great. I like the iHubs. I like the fact that they boosted mining. I actually really like FozzieSov as a system. I don't know what's going to happen with the structures. I'm concerned about making sure that nullsec is valuable enough to merit having people in there. But when I'm sitting here looking all like frowny face, what worries me is the delays. What worries me is 2 months, maybe more with the strike. Like, you know, FozzieSov, awesome. Almost all of our criticisms have been taken into account. Like, I can work with that. Just when are we gonna get it, and how much twiddling, and hey guys, here's a shiny thing. We're gonna fuck around in H1Z1. Hey guys, let's go fuck around with an elite. Let's go here, let's go there. Let's just burn down the clock. How long is that clock gonna run? And that's why I look bothered. Not because the Sov system itself is bad or that I'm unhappy with any aspect of it, because I'm not. I think FozzieSov is going to be interesting, a hell of a lot more interesting than Dominion.
Well, I think all of the feedback has been really positive towards FozzieSov. Like, other than the timing window, that's like the only negative thing that people are hinting about.
Yeah,
everything else has been overwhelmingly positive. It's just a matter of when.
My personal feedback has been that I like it better than Dominion for the most part, except that, as you say, the thing I've been talking about earlier is this confusion over. I'd like to see more clarity communicated to everybody about what the outcome of it's going to be, because without that, people are really swinging.
We're just
going to
sit on our hands. I mean, until there's clarity, there's no reason to make a move.
They may decide they don't like it and leave and never actually know what the heck it was. And the other thing that I'd like to really that you mentioned that has been one of the personal things that I'd love to see is them explaining a little more how they're going to make the juice worth the squeeze, so to speak, which is to say that why do we live in the null, and we need to have something that makes the living of in the actual nullsec so that's where you get your value, not just from being near it or from being around it.
Why should we actually bother holding the Sov, taking the risk to get the reward when we can just hang out in an NPC? And they often just kind of act like we're making that up, and yet at the same time you see the blocks, you see Brave, you see PL, you see all these other people going, you know what, screw this, I'm going to base an NPC and just harvest the resources. I think we're getting
let's do something positive.
How many giveaways do we have left?
We've got I just rolled for the worm, so that goes to Gusbus 8664.
Congratulations, Gusbus.
So congratulations, sir.
And then
make
we
sure,
also
guys, just a quick reminder to send your in-game name to us on the Twitch channel. It's TMC's Twitch channel. Otherwise, you will not get your prize because we have no idea who to contact to.
And also, thanks to Swordcast and Lucius for the 2 new subs. Appreciate it, guys. Everyone, make sure you give them a like in chat. And also, I think we have the Nabu giveaway still.
Yeah. So be active, guys. We'll give you guys like a minute-ish to type stuff. If you haven't, this is the Nabu X. For those who don't know, it's like this Fitbit watch thing.
Well, we're kind of running out of time here. We have like one more giveaway to do, and I kind of think we should maybe pick this discussion up maybe next Saturday. Would you guys?
Yeah, we could have the thing about Fozzie and Phoebe is that since we're sticking to a 1 hour time slot, we're gonna come back around to this because it's a topic of great interest to the Eve community, and it's something that obviously makes us go into like serious frowny face mode, which means
in the future of the game relies on these patches.
It really does. I mean, the Eve pretty much is in the balance here, and I think that everybody kind of understands that. I'm going to segue though before we give away the last thing, because there is something. Speaking of Eve and Eve news, I just want to say that we have finally reopened our editorial system on TMC. We completely revamped it in the last 72 hours, fixed the news reporting system, and we've massively raised the amount of ISK that we're paying for Eve-related articles. If you send us an application, you can find the information on themittani.com and an article that I wrote saying TMC is now hiring writers. We will pay you 250 million ISK per article that you write, which is a shitload more than any other news website that exists. And if you're in the top 3 contributors each month, that actually increases based upon whether you're in first, second, or third place, to the point that the first place writer each month in terms of production can make 500 million ISK per article they write, which is pretty crazy big. So if you're looking for a way to, it is obscene, and just get to kind of make it rain on the boys that way. So yeah, no, we're paying top dollar for good writing, but that also means that if you don't write something every 2 weeks, we fire your ass. If you say you're gonna do something and you don't do it, we fire your ass. It's pretty much Glengarry Glen Ross, like coffee is for closers. It's fuck or walk time. And that's why we're paying the big bucks. So find it on the website and apply, send us a writing sample, and try not to suck about it. And if you don't suck, we'll hire you.
Use your spell check. That's my best advice.
Yeah, for God's sake.
It's a useful thing. Okay,
I can't believe I've been doing this on Reddit for free. Before we
do the last roll, I need to do a quick shout out, guys. Today we are doing a day full of streams, like all the way till 5 a.m. US Eastern. We're doing streams of H1Z1, and we're giving away Nabu's H1Z1 game codes, and I think we have some other stuff to give away as well. So make sure you are tuning in for that. As soon as this stream actually goes off, we're actually immediately 30 seconds after that going live again for H1Z1. We're playing in high population servers and Battle Royale throughout the day. So if you'd like to see what H1Z1 and the shenanigans and stuff that Imperium's getting into there, so make sure you stay tuned in. So all you, Nystrik.
All right, so we have a winner for our Nabu X, one of our new subscribers, Lucius Demeter. Congratulations!
All of our old subs
winning hype things today.
Yeah, all the old subs are going to riot.
No. I'm sorry, guys.
All right, so if you did the Lucius, you need to message the channel with your real life address and name. That way we can send this to you. We need your personal information. If you don't send that to the channel, we cannot send it, and then you can't complain that you didn't get it if you don't give us that.
Don't put it in the chat though. Just
don't put it in the chat.
Message the Twitch channel.
Yeah,
message the channel.
Message PM. And if he doesn't, we'll probably give it away later if people haven't.
Yeah, and people who don't claim him, we'll give them away later. It's no problem.
Well, like I said, thanks, the Mittani, Elise Randolph, and Thoric. Thank you guys for coming on. I wish we had another hour to go on because I think we could fill in the rest of the day with soft talk. But we will come back to this for you guys. Wishing we'd have more time. We'll come back to it hopefully maybe next weekend if everyone's available. If not, we'll schedule something. And we're going to go ahead and wrap it down. Like I said, we're coming back on with H1Z1 after this, and we will see you guys all later.
Bye,
all right, thanks for coming, guys.
Bye.
Later.